Just finding the land deeds probably took 60 to 70 hours. The actual mapping had to have taken multiple hundreds of hours.
Tracking down land deeds from the early 1900s and then tracing those deeds back to black landowners, no small task. But it's one the Orange County Regional History Center took head on.
The records don't often match.
Pamela Schwartz is the center's executive director.
By looking at a land deed, you don't know whether the person listed is white, black, or anything else. And so we had to take those names and then go to some place like Ancestry.com and do genealogical research. And then we would go back to that original deed and start over again, essentially.
But eventually they were able to map out at least some of the early 1900 black landowners' properties in Ocoee. Take a look at this map here. You can see it starts in the late 1800s. And as you scroll across, you'll start to see in yellow how the black community started building enough wealth to buy property. But as you fast forward to 1920, when the massacre happens, well, then you start to see how quickly that land ownership disappears.
But it also doesn't tell us the whole story, but it begins to uncover some of the important pieces about the loss of generational wealth.
These highlighted areas show some of the land owned by black landowners in the early 1900s. While we weren't able to get the people who currently own or live on this land to speak with us, we did talk with a young woman who works right next door to this plot of land. Today, it's an empty lot at the corner of Ocoee-Apopka Road and West Silver Star Road. But a church once stood there, a church on land owned by multiple black residents at the time.
I lived here all my life, and I have my family here. My job is here, my life is here. I didn't even know there was a church here.
According to the History Center, the land owned by black Ocoee residents in the early 1900s would now collectively be worth well over $10 million. So where is all of that land? Who lives on it now? And do they even know the history of the land that they're living on? We set to find out, one property at a time.
This land was purchased by my parents originally in 2000.
This Ocoee resident says she and her family had no idea it had once belonged to a black landowner named Rosa Edie, who purchased it in 1908. The property was sold to a man named John Butler 29 months after the massacre. Historians say blacks who were not physically harmed in the massacre were often made to feel unsafe living in Ocoee afterward. So even if documents show their properties were sold, the property sale could have been under duress, or money could have never actually exchanged hands at all.
We did not know about the history of this area until we actually lived here.
Which is why, as a person of color now living on this land,
it makes me feel blessed that we are here. Past generation has fought for this.
So have you heard of the Ocoee massacre?
Yes, I have, but I did not know that when I moved here 28 years ago.
Sheila Ross says her neighborhood is increasingly diverse and that she loves what her neighborhood is today. But when reflecting on the land's past...
Well, I think it's very sad. And my husband said he thinks it's horrible. I don't know if I had known ahead of time, it might have even made a difference, to be honest with you.
What? Oh.
Not to buy here.
I was in an apartment for 2 years and I didn't know my neighbor. And the moment I moved here, I knew everybody because everyone was so friendly.
John DaCosta moved to Florida from Jamaica.
And this was one of the last houses that I looked at. Yeah, my mother-in-law called me and she's like, are you kidding? Are you going to move there? Have you heard about it? And that's when I kind of read about it and I found out what happened.
As a black man now living on this land, a sense of sorrow, but also a newfound respect.
I did love the house anyway, but yeah, now I love it even more. And I think every step that we make forward will not erase, but at least kind of ease the pain of what happened in the past.